Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ginger Show. I am so excited today to have Kelly Travis on the show. Hey, Kelly.
Hello, Ginger. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're so excited to have you. And, I'm all about bringing guests that, bring real value to helping people in their lives. And I think you're an amazing coach. So I'm super excited to have you on the show. So I just want to tell everybody a little bit about you. Kelly Travis is a well-being career and leadership coach and an Enneagram Certified Facilitator. She is on a mission to support women as they work to stop settling in their professional and personal lives. Her personal health history combined with her athletic background inform the work she does with her clients. And so we're very excited to have you here today. For people that don't know you, I believe you're a professional athlete, were you not?
I was a collegiate athlete, but my story is that I had to drop out and I had an eating disorder. So it was a long recovery process. And then years later, in my 40s, I'm now racing at elite status, but as a master's runner. So I took a long time off, but I'm back at it.
Awesome. Well, yes, I know that you are definitely a high-level athlete because I see your stuff on social and you're always running those marathons and stuff, which is really amazing. But what I know you best for, and I have some friends that have taken some of your workshops and use you as a coach, is that you really are helping to empower women and strengthen them in their personal and professional lives. And, I think that's really needed for a lot of people. And so I know you're doing great work out there. So today, we're going to talk about something that I think a lot of us struggle with, which is setting boundaries for your well-being and professional success.
Yeah.
And boundaries is a big one, right? I mean, we all struggle with that, especially those of us that are people pleasers. So I'm going to go, right into the questions that I have for you today. So Kelly, have you always been good at setting boundaries?
No. In fact, I had to learn the hard way. And I think that's kind of where a lot of us end up, right? We are terrible at setting them. And then we finally get to the point where we realize we're giving away our own time. We're apologizing for existing, all of these things. And I always say that I'm a recovering people pleaser because there's still a little bit of that ingrained. And I think that as women, especially, we tend to feel like we have to make ourselves available and aren't allowed to say no. So no, I have not always been good at it.
Well, that's good to know because, I think a lot of us sometimes think that, coaches or people like yourself that, are very successful, that you kind of have always had it all together and that's why you coach others. But I do find that a lot of times it comes from personal experience and learning these techniques the hard way, as you said, be able to share that knowledge with others because you haven't been through it. It's kind of hard to share.
Absolutely.
So why do we, as in general, especially women, why do we have such a hard time setting boundaries?
I think there's a few factors. I think that we've been kind of raised in a culture where we're trying to meet other people's expectations in a lot of ways. And in my work, that tends to be the case, right? Women are chasing goals that maybe they haven't set for themselves, but they think they're supposed to go after. And so culturally, we've kind of been taught to just like fall in line and to do the next thing in front of us, right? And then depending on how we're raised and the environment we grew up in, or, the messages that were sent to us, we might also carry some of that narrative around, we have to make ourselves available. We have to be accessible and provide and do step into those roles. So then when it comes time for us to think that we're entitled to our own time or to have those boundaries in place, we feel icky and uncomfortable with even asking or having that thought.
Yeah. And I personally don't have children, but most of my friends do. And I know you have children as well. Mm-hmm. And I shared a cute cartoon the other day about on Mother's Day that, mothers get one day off a year. And, the joke was the only day you get off is Mother's Day, but you actually have to work on that day too.
You do. Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, it's tough for moms, I jokingly say, and I'm a feminist and I support women empowerment and I love women and I love supporting women to be successful. But I'd say sometimes women's live really didn't do us a lot of favors because, you know, back in the day, we were able to raise our kids and, you know, stay home with them. And now we're expected to, you know, bring in, you know, work full time, bring in as much income, if not more than our spouse. We're still expected to do the majority of the child raising. We're still expected to do, you know, taking care of the home, taking care of the husband. And to be honest with you, Kelly, I don't know how women are doing it.
Yeah, it's not easy. And I will say that it is a very common struggle with my clients. And here's the thing, you're right. Women's lib has kind of shifted the other side of the pendulum, right? In that we've got, you know, our careers, but now we have all of the other things. Part of the problem is that we're not actually asking for help, right? And so we keep our mouths shut. And it's not always the fault of maybe the partner or the other people in our lives. Sometimes it's that we're just not comfortable with saying, hey, I need help with this. Can you step in? Can you take some of this, you know, off my plate, right? And again, that goes back to the people pleasing. As moms, we tend to carry a little bit of guilt if we're not the one doing the thing, right? There's so much of that exists as well. But if you think about it, we've gotten to this place where we have more autonomy, we have our careers. If we want to continue to progress, we have to be able to set boundaries. We have to be able to ask for help. We're entitled to our own time to do the things that help us move forward.
That is so true. We are entitled, and I love that. And I think we forget that. So how does a lack of boundaries impact your well-being and your career? You know, what have you seen in your clients?
Yeah, it's everything from mental health to physical health to inability to focus, right? Juggling too many things. When we think about well-being and our inability to set boundaries, that comes at a cost in terms of not setting aside time to practice those habits, right? Putting everybody else first before ourselves, right? That old adage about putting your mask on first so that you can take care of everybody else is really true. And it's there for a reason, right? But we forget this. And so what happens is we shove off our own time. We put it aside to be available to others. We take on other things. And then we end up lacking that ability to prioritize our own well-being, set aside that time, whether it's sleep or it's movement or it's, you know, cooking a meal that is healthy, whatever the case may be, right? The kids come first, the partner comes first, the work comes first, we're last. So it's really a shift in that inner narrative. Professionally, it's the same way. And a lot of times women tend to get overlooked to move up because of a lack of ability to set boundaries, right? Because we step into that role of assistant, person who does all of the things, takes on other people's stuff, but isn't striving forward on our own stuff because we're like consuming everything else that needs to get done. And so what happens is not only is it impacting productivity, impacting ability to just stay focused, right? There's so many distractions when you don't set boundaries. You think about it, if you're in an office setting and you don't like let people know you need that hour to do whatever, then people are just walking in because nobody thinks about asking for consent. They just walk in, right? Right. Same with not setting boundaries around email or even social media. Those are distractions that eat up time that could otherwise be used for improving ourselves, working on whatever we're working on.
Yeah, I know social media is one of those time suckers that, you know, I just don't allow myself to get on there during the day because I just know I'll get sucked in. And so it's been years now that I've looked at social media during the day, and I have a social media company, but I have a team that manages that. I have a team that audits that. So there's really no need for me to be in there on a daily basis. I do when I go to bed, it's my little kind of, you know, some people like to watch TV. You know, I kind of like to, an hour before bed, scroll my social media. That's kind of my entertainment. And, you know, invariably I'll find you know, I'm there for entertainment, but invariably I'll find a typo on one of my client posts or something. I'm like, no, am I getting seeing work stuff right now? So yeah, even when I'm trying to set a boundary to not be working and doing something for my, for my entertainment,
Yeah.
I get sucked back into the work. So, I think for me, one of the challenges that I face, and maybe you can give me some advice on this, is I'm very passionate about nonprofit work. So I work with a lot of different nonprofits. Some, I used to be on boards. I've actually set that boundary now that I'm not taking on any board positions because I'm just not, to be honest with you, in a financial position to be a full-time board member.
Right.
I just don't have the hours to give.
Yeah.
I have 25 clients, I've got 25 contractors, and I need to be focused on my business. Yeah. However, I still want to be involved in nonprofits. So I get on committees and and then the next thing I know is, oh, well, can you help us with our social media? And I'm like, and then I have a really hard time saying no to that because it's like something that I love. But then after I say yes and I start doing the stuff, then I'm like, oh my God, I should have said no. So then what do you do? And you knew you said, I knew I should have said no, but I said yes. So what do you do when you get yourself into those pickles?
So there's a question that I have my clients ask themselves whenever they're confronted with an opportunity or an ask, right? And that question is, would I want to do this tomorrow? And if you know that there's no way you have the bandwidth or you're not excited enough about it to do it tomorrow, then you're not going to want to do it a month from now, right? Because we tend to think when we're presented with those things, whether it's an ask to help somebody or to support a company or whatever it is, it's a month out. Like, yeah, sure, no problem. That sounds fine right now. But when we're faced with it and it's like on the calendar for tomorrow, oh, the dread, the sense of like anxiety, whatever comes up, that's a sign, right?
Right.
So first rule, asking yourself, like, would I want to do this tomorrow? The other thing that's a really helpful question when it comes to setting boundaries and saying no or yes is asking yourself, what am I getting out of this? Because if we're going to show up fully and we're going to be engaged and we're going to be excited about doing it and we want to make sure it's not going to drain our energy or cause extra stress, there's got to be a little bit in it for us, right? In terms of whether it's going to make you feel good or you want to be supportive, right? And then asking yourself, and what is it costing me, right? Like, what am I giving up in my own life, my own career, business to be present and available for this thing? And if those don't align and they cause any type of angst or stress, then you know your answer, right?
So it's what am I getting out of this and what is it costing me? And so, for me, when it comes to the nonprofit stuff, it's kind of like, well, what am I getting out of this? It's really mostly joy, right? I try not to, even though sometimes it is, so I work a lot in medical marketing. So, and I do a lot of nonprofit work in the medical kind of circles, I don't want to do it because there's going to be a benefit to me for work I don't like to look at it like that. I like to look at it like I'm giving because I want to give, because I support this organization and I love it and it's going to bring me joy. But I think the bigger question sometimes, and one that I need to really focus on, is what is it costing me? Because if it's costing me productivity, if it's costing me from, meeting my business goals or spending time with my family, then, those are the kind of things that I really need to look at and see, maybe I need to really even look at, how much time am I willing to give? I give whatever, 4 hours a week, and that's it. And, once, and then I probably need to clock myself and say, okay, you've done your 4 hours for the week.
Yes.
So because I find, I'm the type of person that, next thing I know, I'll be doing 20, 30 hours a week and, on top of my full-time job. So that's, and so, can you give us some other things that we can do, when we're struggling with setting these boundaries?
Yeah. I just had a conversation with a client the other day who is struggling with this. And we talked about taking time before you answer. So if you're asked, to do something, to help with something, to take on something, giving yourself some space to walk away from it and to not respond immediately is helpful because, again, you can ask yourself these questions. You can think about it a little bit and be honest with yourself. When it comes to practicing saying no, which is a scary word for people pleasers and those of us who just want to be of value to other people, right? And organizations. It's starting small and practicing using the word in kind of the silliest ways. But think about your day-to-day, right? There's a lot of opportunity to practice saying no, that then can like lead up to some of the bigger things. And so I love that as a practice to just start building the habit. And let me tell you, once you start saying no, it's so freeing. It gives you this like, it's empowering. You're like, I love this. It feels good. And I'm starting to like narrow in on my priorities. And I'm suddenly seeing time and space for myself, right? And I've let go of some of that anxiety. You start to experience the benefits, which far outweigh like some of the other things that come with it.
So can you give me an example of like something like a no that we could, practice with during our daily life? Okay.
So I don't know if you have a lot of moms that listen to this show,
yes,
but okay, perfect. I have a client who we had her practice saying no when it came to like just the asks from school, because school is always asking for things, whether it's donations, time on the PTA, helping in the classroom, right? Any of those things. Okay. It's anxiety inducing to say no, but it's not like the end of it's not going to cause like mass panic, right? So she said no to an ask. I can't remember specifically what it is, but that's like a safer environment, right? It's not going to like hurt your kids if you don't donate $5 to something or, whatever. So that's a really just like, right, smaller, has nothing to do with your career, but something that you can do.
I like that. So I saw a quote yesterday and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to say this, read it out to Kelly and see if she can touch on this a little bit because it really resonated with me. So it says, burnout is due to a lack of respect for your personal boundaries. So can we talk about that a little bit? Because I know a lot of us women are, either on the verge of burnout, suffering burnout, coming out of a burnout, but I never associated it with lack of personal boundaries. I always associated it with, wanting to overachieve or wanting to be more successful or wanting to be a better wife. I never looked at it as personal boundaries.
Yeah, it can be both.
Okay.
So, and usually it is both, right? It's usually that high achieving perfectionist, like goal driven individual plus like wanting to please everybody on the way to doing it. So think about the work environment and you think about like just your home. It's after 5:00. You're getting phone calls or emails from clients or your boss. Is the expectation to respond? You're not on the clock anymore, right? But most people fall into I need to still respond to this. I need to be attentive to my emails on Saturday afternoons, even though I'm off work and I'm not working, right? Or individuals who are on vacation and are still checking work emails and responding to little things and tell themselves like, I just want to stay on top of it so that I'm not overwhelmed when I get back. These are all examples of not having those personal boundaries in place. And it starts to add up, right? It's one after the other. It's anxiety when you hear the ping of an email coming through, especially on a Saturday. It's that like desire to check it, even though you don't need to be working on a Saturday. It all starts to create that, stress, anxiety. It wreaks havoc on our mental health, right? All of these things. So that would be an example. But yes, like not having those personal boundaries in place is huge. One of the things I have my clients do, because it feels safe, this is an example of another like low barrier of entry, is in your email, at the bottom below the signature, put a note about how you only check your email twice a day. You're typically responsive in about 48 hours, 24 hours. If it's an emergency, please contact this number, right? That gives you like a little bit of that power to say, look, here's when I'm available. These are my boundaries. It's not super like aggressive or invasive, but it's sending a message. Because here's the thing, if you've been really bad at setting boundaries and saying no for most of your life, most of your career, the people that have been benefiting from you not setting boundaries are going to start to go, wait a minute, she usually helps me with this, right? She's usually available. What's going on? So we have to like retrain people on what to expect from us, but it can happen, and you can take it at your own progression, right? But it's so important.
That goes back to teaching people how to treat, teach people how to treat.
Exactly.
Yes, and that's a good, good way to handle it, because I think a lot of people do, and it makes sense now that the personal boundaries are what is affecting you and making you burnt out, because if you're not able to take that personal time and you're just always focused on work and you're never taking a break, and as an entrepreneur, I will tell you, it's a little bit more difficult because you are the owner, you are the buck stops with you. But I have found, for me, I have been blessed to have great assistants, that will check, my emails on the weekend. And if there is something, that needs to be addressed, they'll let me know. But for the most part, I'm able to kind of, shut it off and let my team handle it. So, but sometimes in the beginning, you don't have that. But I like that, putting it in your signature so that at least they're getting a, in every email correspondence, they're getting this message of when you're checking emails, and, please allow 24 to 48 hours for a response. So then they're setting that expectation. I think that's a really great.
You are. And then on the other side of that, you have to practice not breaking that rule yourself, right? So that we have this tendency to feel like we have to be responsive as soon as an email comes in or something comes in, right? You have to abide by your own rule and not respond to everything that's not important right away, right? So like, limit your activity in the email, set some rules and boundaries around how often you're in it, maybe turn off the notifications, and really be honest with yourself about that too, because that plays a part in it as well.
Yeah, that makes very good sense. So do you have any tips for us in general regarding this subject in regards to, life, work, and wellness?
I think we touched on a lot of them. I think what I'll leave everybody with is we're all different, right? We all have different personalities. We all have different goals and core motivations. And so not everybody struggles with setting boundaries. But I think that understanding how it impacts your own life and being willing to test some things, right? You don't have to set all the boundaries and just put yourself on this hard lockdown, right? But like play with a couple of the things we talked about and see what works and what helps a little bit. And then as you dip your toe in, you'll start to realize, oh my gosh, this actually is effective and it's helpful. And maybe I'll try the next thing, right? High achieving women tend to go like, we have to do 10 things to improve this one thing, right? We're just saying like, try one thing and see how it goes.
Yeah, I got a lot of takeaways from the show today. And one of the things that resonated was pause before you respond.
Yes.
That is one of my things I need to work on, is not just saying yes right away. Even if I want to say yes, pause and, really give myself some time to think about it,
Right, you owe it to yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Pardon?
You owe it to yourself to do that.
Yeah, the pause. Yeah, that was very, very good. So some great takeaways today. So yeah, can you tell us a little bit about, how people can reach you, some programs that you offer, and the best way to contact you?
Yeah. I have one-on-one coaching, and I'm opening up several slots for the summer to work actually on burnout and a lot of this stuff. I have a group program that opens up every 6 months that works with women and figuring out what's next, whether it's in their career or their health, and identifying those parts that we want to work towards. Because oftentimes we're really good at some things, but we struggle with working towards other things.
Mm-hmm.
I have a podcast called She Doesn't Settle. It comes out new episode every Wednesday. So there's great free content there that you can grab. I also have a download on my website that has my top 7 favorite wellness apps. One of them is helpful in setting boundaries. So check that out for sure. So yeah, lots of stuff going on.
Check Kelly out at kellytravis.net. I also know she's on social media. I follow her on Facebook because I'm old, but I'm sure she's also on Instagram, which is at with Kelly Travis.
Yes, exactly.
And that's Kelly with Kelly Travis. So with Kelly Travis is her Instagram handle. So follow her. She's always giving out great free advice and tips and tricks. And if you really do need somebody to help you in your personal and professional life, I highly recommend that you hire her. I know personally some people that have been through her programs and her coaching, and they have benefited tremendously. So thank you so much for being on the show today, and you have a wonderful day. And thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
Right.